This is my intro music. Welcome to the video. I hope you like it lots, so don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Now let's react.
Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome to an episode of Anthropologist Watches Graphically Alex. And I want to start doing some more fat logic stuff. I've said this a million times now. Today is the day. But I like watching Graphically Alex because he's intelligent, and I like the things that he says, and I like the way that he adds to the conversation with really good observations. And I like his toxic ritualistic behaviors, the concepts that he does, and the way he talks about it. I like Graphically Alex. Anyway, my point is, so I noticed recently. Now I'm a little behind. Don't judge me. I noticed that he has been doing this thing with The Last of Us, and I was like, ooh, video games. And he's like, our fat logic, what does a fat acceptance zombie look like in the wild? And I'm like, okay, fat acceptance zombies video games. You have my attention, sir. And so I thought it might be interesting to watch this just because I thought it was an interesting topic. And it would be a good way to kind of like get into fat acceptance again and the R fat logic, which is the Reddit for fat logic. And because I've thought about doing this too. I used to watch a channel called Mutt Fitness, and they used to go on to, I think Fat Logic was one of them, and there was another Reddit that they would go on to and just kind of read posts from various people who were on there and just kind of discuss them and the weird ass arguments that people would post who were mostly within the fat acceptance and the health at every size communities. And there were some weird arguments. And I was thinking, Mutt Fitness actually closed down their channel early last year, because they didn't feel like they were really getting anywhere with it, and they'd been around for a while. And I was like, oh, too bad. But, I was thinking, well, a little bit of a vacuum there. Maybe I could pick up where they left off. And then I saw that Graphically Alex was doing this, and I was like, I feel like this might be fun. I think this might be fun. We're gonna talk about fat acceptance zombies. And then I noticed that he was doing more of them, and I'm like, I feel like this is a thing. Now, I did notice that within the feed earlier, he did an interview with Angelica Unfiltered. It says, talking to Angelica Unfiltered about my new era. And it does say Last of Us actually losing the weight. I might go over that one later, only because it looks like it's a conversation between the two of them. It's already 47 minutes long. I don't know if you guys want me to do that, because it's not really going to be a fat logic, fat acceptance discussion. It's probably going to be the two of them talking about their own weight loss journeys. Might be something worth watching in a live if you guys would be interested in that, because both of them have, well, I don't think Alex was ever part of the fat acceptance community, but he is adamantly against it. Angelica was part of the fat acceptance community. She has a very interesting story coming out of the fat acceptance community, actually. So the two of them have very interesting stories within the fat acceptance community and dealing with the fat acceptance community and their own weight loss journeys. So if you guys are interested in going over that in a live, maybe that would be kind of fun. I would be totally down with it, because both of those channels are absolutely fabulous, and I just think it would be fun, especially since it's around fat acceptance. And I realize it's girl world adjacent, but and cat hair adjacent. So in the meantime, I would like to watch these videos by Alex. As far as these ones dealing with fat acceptance, it looks like he's got 2, 3, 4. That's another interview with another person. Again, another good one for maybe a live. 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like he's got 9-ish videos in this Last of Us series. 2 of them are interview. Well, there's another interview with Sunny Side Up Gal, who is another person like Angelica Unfiltered. I don't know as much about them, however. But again, another good one to maybe watch in a live. That being said, there is this lore of NEDA that might be interesting to get. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting into that and learning about that, because he also has, it says final here. It says NEDA was already compromised by fat acceptance a long time ago. So that would be a learning. There'll be learning. We'll learn. But today we are just going to go over the one that's on the screen. It is only an 18-minute video. And as I've mentioned, I can talk. So if you guys are interested in this, because I like a theme, and I like this Last of Us fat acceptance zombie theme. I hope Graphically Alex doesn't mind me doing this, because I really feel like this is going to be very educational for all of us. Alex views himself as an advocate against fat acceptance, and I hope that, like, watching these together, I will be linking any video that we watch in the description down below. I highly recommend you guys go check out his channel. And I will say, he does not hold back. Okay. He takes no shit, and he does not hold back. He is not, in my opinion, he is not rude or vulgar or anything like that, but he doesn't suffer fools, and he will point things out. And, you know, he's very blunt. And I think that's kind of refreshing, honestly. So my point is he might not be your cup of tea, but you will know by the end of this video if he is or isn't. But anyway, he will be linked down below, so please go give him a look. If you like his stuff, give him a thumbs up. And if you really like his stuff, give him a follow. But in the meantime, thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my members. Thank you to everybody who's going to give this a thumbs up. And I haven't watched this yet, so this is going to be a cold watch, which, you know, is always good. Never know. And nothing could possibly go wrong. Nothing could possibly go wrong. But yeah, so let's dive into this, our fat logic, and see what Alex has to say. I will be speeding him up a bit. And if there's chunks of it that I feel like, you know, I may not feel like addressing, I will be editing that out. So you may not have the entire video. So all the more reason to go over to Alex's channel to watch the whole video over there. All right. If and when you get over to Alex's channel, he has, under pretty much all of his videos, his toxic ritualistic timeline, toxic ritualistic behaviors meanings, and his toxic ritualistic reinforcement meaning videos. Do you have any more for that one? Yeah. And those are the 3 main videos to watch if you want to get a better grasp of what he means when he says his toxic ritualistic behaviors, or what I mean when I repeat them, because I think it's a fabulous concept, and because we'll talk about them a lot. He talks about them a lot. I talk about them a lot. You'll pick up on the rest of the lingo that he uses, because he does talk about E followed by the letter D. So, and then I say bingo. Figure it out, because YouTube doesn't like adult words. Anyway, I do have him sped up to time and a quarter. I don't think we need to speed him up any faster than that, but if we do, we'll play around with it. But I don't know if he reads these. We'll find out. I'll let him go a little bit, and if he doesn't, we'll back up and I'll read it for you. So I think we're good. Anything else I need to say before we get into this? How did he not bake wearing his coat and his little toboggan and his scarf like that? I mean, I love the play. I love the play up on the costume, but oh, Alex also has a witch's hat that he'll wear occasionally, so I'm almost positive Alex is he, him, but if he's not, I will correct my pronouns later.
Hi, this is Graphically Alex, coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you.
Yay.
Today's video is going to be a bit quicker, but I just wanted to break down this post on fat logic. We have a fat acceptance zombie here.
Fat acceptance zombie.
Recently,
actually, let me turn the CC on. I like having the CC, as long as it's not going to like mess anything up. Can we put it up here? Yeah, let's go. Let's do that.
On my post, I shared The Last of Us sounds of the infected. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with that series, the zombies, they just kind of groan, and there's some of them that are clickers, and they go like, ah, ah, you know, and they sound like that. I feel like that's what this person is. I think they're a clicker.
They're a clicker. Okay.
In terms of the metaphor, but also they just kind of like, ugh, you know how zombies are. They're like
Sure.
that, okay? That's what this sounds like to me.
Fat acceptance. Okay, sure, go.
When I read this, that's what I'm hearing. And I want you to imagine that as you're listening to what I'm about to read, okay? So imagine a zombie moaning, shouting, grunting.
Zombies shout? Okay.
Or if you're familiar with The Last of Us, imagine a clicker, okay? Diet culture people make me feel like I'm going crazy. You want me to take an experimental pill that destroys my appetite? You want me to remove part of my stomach? You want me to stop eating bread and rice, two of the staple foods most inherent to humanity? Why exactly? Because my stomach is big? Because you don't like the way I look? And you think it's reasonable to tell me to carve pieces off of myself and try random drugs and ruin my own life so I can look more visually pleasing to you? And you somehow don't see how absurdly cruel and selfish that is to ask of somebody while pretending you care about their health? Fuck you. Okay. Hope I did a good, accurate representation of the
Hashtag text post. As opposed to hashtag fatphobia, hashtag 1K, hashtag the post that wouldn't die. Also playing into the zombie theme.
tone behind that post. This person just wrote, I feel so bad for them to be thinking this. I need you to understand that if somebody's writing something like this, it is not logical at all. I think it's actually, it's zombification, I'm telling you. This is not a real line of thought. This is like a toxic ritualistic spiral, which in terms of the channel, that is a coded term for E followed by the letter D, primarily binge. I have to spell it out because Fedra is on my ass, always. No, YouTube is on my ass.
Fedra. I need to find out what Fedra is. I don't think I know what that is. I don't know if that's a new thing, and I don't know what it is, or if it's something that's been around for a while, and I've just not been aware of it. So I apologize for my ignorance in this point, but I will figure out what it is, and we will be talking about it more in the future. I have a box of chocolates here today because I feel like fidgeting. And again, if you're a member, you know. If you're not a member, you've probably picked up on the fact that I play with slime.
All the time. All the time. So they're on all of our asses, to be honest.
True.
So it's hard to talk about this stuff. But
Word.
the point is, this is not logical. This is a spiral. This is one of those, like, somebody's writing this probably as they're about to engage in the behavior, or right after they engaged in the behavior, or right after they saw themselves in the mirror, and they have to justify what they're doing. You have to remember that it always goes back to justification, because within the TR, shame and guilt are a huge part of it.
TR is toxic ritualistic, in case you didn't know.
So I think, like other aspects of the TR, they may use shame to reinforce what they're doing, maybe reductively. But within the binge side, people try to dispel shame. And so they put it all on to everyone else, basically. It's everyone else's fault that I feel this way. It's not my fault, even though it is. So let's go ahead and break it down piece by piece.
That is something Alex is a real big proponent of, is personal responsibility. Some people might find him a little harsh, but I don't personally think he's too harsh. I think he might be too harsh for people who aren't ready to hear it, but I don't personally think he's too harsh. But also, I've never had to recover from something like this from an ED, so, your mileage may vary.
Diet culture people make me feel like I'm going crazy. See, it's somebody else's fault.
I was crazy once.
That this person feels this way. It's the diet culture people. So they make me feel like I'm going crazy. No.
So he's starting off pointing out that the beginning of this post is just pure deflection by the person writing it. So instead of taking responsibility for, you know, the headspace that the author, the OP, is in, they are deflecting their personal headspace onto the infamous, the amorphous, that's what I'm looking for, the amorphous blob of diet culture people, whomever they may be.
You're making yourself feel crazy because of your obsessive spiraling about how you look and your behaviors around consumption. That's what's actually making you crazy, at least in this moment. Now, remember that when people have these issues, they have underlying psychological problems a lot of the time. There are comorbidities that can be going on. There can be deep trauma or extremely stressful lifestyles. There's a lot of factors that can be at play, but this whole thing is meant to be a distraction. So instead of actually thinking about all that, I'll think about diet culture people and how evil and horrible they are. And I'll shame them for saying something because I feel shamed. So it's a way to kind of like dispel that. It's a lot of mind games.
And since the diet culture people, you know, what's a diet culture person? What is that? What does that person, who is that person? Does that person have a name? Does that person have a face? You know, what does that person, individual, look like, right? Am I a diet culture person? Are you a diet culture person? I mean, we all can probably have an image of like a stereotype of what we individually might think a diet culture person looks like, but that all depends on what we as individuals determine or think diet culture is, right? And we're all going to have a slightly different version of that, which means this is just a straw argument. This is a literal straw argument because you are creating a straw man, and the straw man here is diet culture. And so you are creating a straw man, diet culture, in order to argue with them, which is this entire post, in order to create an argument that you can hypothetically win. And it's pretty sad when you can't even win your own straw argument, but
in the TR in general, and people don't understand that. So you have to, if you are looking at this from the outside, you have to understand that this person is not logical. This person is not thinking from a realistic place. This person is not, you know, they're losing their humanity. Okay, there's a zombification occurring.
I like this zombification metaphor. I'm sorry, I'm enjoying this. So this is the beginning of the fat acceptance zombification.
Which I am definitely leaning into that metaphor because it is one of the best ways I can describe this to people that have not ever been in this.
I'm liking it. I like this. Let's go with it. I like this. I like the zombification thing. Let's go.
It is like parts of the brain are completely turned off. Okay. All right. You want me to take an experimental pill that destroys my appetite. So we know that this is a straw man because there is a natural way to downsize. So people don't have to pressure you to do that. I don't really believe in pressuring people to do that. I think it is a case-by-case basis. I don't believe in promoting it or shaming it. If they're talking about Ozempic or something like that, I just think let people come to their own conclusions, and if you're considering it, you need to be out of the TR, period. Like, I don't care what you're doing, you need to be out of the TR. So it's kind of irrelevant almost to the discussion. You cannot be a zombie on these medications. Like, this person would be nuts on those medications. They'd be totally crazy.
I think that's an interesting, I mean, not interesting. I think that's a important point that Alex makes, is that you need to be outside of your toxic ritualistic behaviors before you go on something like Ozempic. And I think the perfect examples for that are any of the girls. Amber routinely goes on and off of the GLP-1s, and when she's on the GLP-1s, she routinely eats her way through them. Foodie was notorious for being on the GLP-1s and forcing herself to eat through them. Was it Rosie, I believe, was on? Rosie was on the GLP-1s for a hot minute and also ate her way through them. Like, they find ways to override what the GLP-1 does, which makes you feel full. I think it actually slows down your digestion, so you are actually full. Like you still have food in your digestive tract because you just don't digest as fast. But it also like works with your hunger cues. So you're not actually hungry. Your hunger cues aren't going off. But that's not the problem with people like the girls is they're not eating because they're hungry. That's not the issue. They don't have hunger cues. They have these toxic ritualistic behaviors. We can argue that with Anna as well. We talked about this there was a comment recently that we read that someone had posted underneath a more recent video that had gone back and revisited Bagelgate. And we had talked about the comment had talked about how we were witnessing Anna go through her punishment cycle, her reward and punishment cycle, so that she could have a bingo, and her reward was the bagel. And so since she couldn't have the correct reward because she got the wrong bagel after punishing herself by making herself walk all that distance in New York to get to the bagel shop when she could have just taken a car, gotten an Uber, used the underground, the subway. She didn't do any of those things, right? She purposely made herself walk to get there so that she could earn the bagel, right? These are the behaviors that Alex is talking about when he's talking about, or these are examples of the behaviors that Alex is talking about when he's talking about the toxic ritualistic behaviors, because Anna created a punishment reward cycle. Like she punished herself by making herself walk all that distance to get to the bagel shop, and the reward was the bagel. But then she got the wrong bagel and then went home to eat it because she took a taxi home. She took a taxi back to the hotel and didn't realize until she got back to the hotel that she had the wrong order. And then that's why she had the breakdown in the hotel room about having the wrong bagel, because her what did they call it? Her reward food, her control food was wrong, and that she wasn't able to emotionally regulate because her reward food was wrong, right? Which just blew my mind. I mean, the whole concept of that blows my mind. But again, I've never had this problem, so I don't think like this. Alex is recovering from that kind of a thing, so Alex does have insight into that, and that's what he calls these toxic ritualistic behaviors, his TR. But what he's pointing out here is even on Ozempic or a GLP-1, the behavior, the TR behavior will override any benefit that something like a GLP-1 is going to give you, because it's not the hunger cue and it's not the sensation of being full that is preventing you from losing weight or not eating. It's the ritualistic behavior. It's the bingo behavior that is causing the overconsumption, right? So that's why he's saying, until you can get that under control, you really don't have any business being on these medications anyway, because it's going to fail. You're going to fail anyway, regardless of the medication or not. So that's Alex's point on that. I'm not entirely sure if that's true for everyone who suffers from bingo, who goes on to GLP-1s, because I do know that some of them, there has been some study into impulse control with these medications, and they do seem to have some positive effects on impulse control. So I think it's a mileage may vary kind of a situation, but also, do this with the supervision of a doctor for obvious reasons, because there's side effects to these things, right? But we have watched Amber, we have watched Rosie, Quirky Love Rose, we have watched Foodie, all of them just bingo their way through using GLP-1s. And all of them have failed on them multiple times with some of the girls. And, I think even Alexandra Rodriguez, don't quote me on that, but I feel like Alexandra Rodriguez was on a GLP-1 and ate her way through that as well. No, she had stomach. She had a stomach surgery, weight loss surgery, but again, ate her way through that as well. So these things aren't necessarily magic bullets. But anyway, I'm rambling.
Hold on, I'm going to try to mute my drinking of this since you guys get so mad. Okay. You want me to remove part of my stomach? You don't have to do that. You can do it naturally. Oh my gosh, if I said this to this person, they might literally try to attack me.
I don't know about that.
I'm serious. People do not understand how mad people get. And it's, I mean, maybe some of you guys have seen it before, but people get so angry because your anxiety goes through the roof when somebody doesn't co-sign your bullshit, basically, or when somebody doesn't reinforce your problem.
That's true.
Your delusion, we should say. People get angry because you get so anxious that you get enraged, especially if you're really big. Then you.
I think a lot of that comes down to, I mean, not just the anxiety. I think that's true too, but I think the other reason is, especially with fat acceptance and health at every size, what have I heard people call it? Your fat identity, your fat identity. The fatness becomes your identity. And anytime you, like he says, you're not co-signing their BS, you're attacking that person's identity. And so one of the biggest complaints non-fat acceptance people have about fat acceptance is like fatness is their identity. They don't have any other trait. They don't have any other personality trait other than they're fat. It's like their whole personality is they're fat. It's like, yeah, but I do other things. Like, yes, I am overweight. You are correct. But like, I do other things. There are other facets to my personality besides my weight. I very rarely bring it up if it's not in one of these videos. So, like, you people are bringing it up every 5 fucking minutes. It is clearly, like, the number one trait of your personality. So, like, with Alex is saying, people get really enraged when you attack that or you don't co-sign it. And I'm sure it does have to do with anxiety, because anxiety is, like, I'm sure everything has to do with anxiety. I'm not even trying to be, like, smart. But that anxiety comes from your attack, your perceived attack, or your blatant attack of their identity of being fat, right? And that fatness being okay, that fatness being good.
You have like a lot of hormonal dysregulation that can also make you prone to quick bouts of rage or extreme anxiety from a physical basis too. So you can have physical issues that are also reinforcing the psychological issues. That's really difficult. You want me to stop eating bread and rice, two of the staple foods and most inherent to humanity. So a lot of people, myself included, do suggest reducing bread and rice during downsizing because it's mostly an empty calorie. It just is. That doesn't mean it's evil or horrible or anything. It's not that black or white, or black and white, I guess. It's just that it's not useful for downsizing. When you are downsizing, you need to either have a quick energy source, especially right before you go to the gym or you're going to the gym. So that's where like a more simple sugar can be useful. Or in some cases, if you're really unwell, you might need some sugar in the morning. I know that's a controversial statement, but I needed coffee with sugar in the morning to get out of bed a lot of days, or to actually have enough energy to function, especially because I was active.
I don't like, first off, culturally, rice and things like bread can be very important to a cultural diet. But as far as like, what do they say? Two of the staple foods most inherent to humanity. They are mistaking carbohydrate and sugars, which is the two things that bread and rice give you. Rice being a grain, bread being the product of grains. So, prepared rice and bread are cultural foods, right? We as humans can exist without them. We did for quite a long time. We didn't have them. They didn't make us human. What made us human was proteins, carbohydrates, and the ability to cook food. that's how we got where we are. That's what gave us our brains and what allowed us to effectively evolve into what we recognize today as human, right? Not bread, not rice. Do we like bread and rice? Yes. Why? Because they're tasty. Does that make them bad foods? No, they can be healthy. But to be like, oh my God, cutting bread and rice out of your diet is just like removing your humanity. It's not. It's really not. You're going to survive. You really will. It'll be okay. You can literally go your whole life without eating either of those two items and be fine. There are other forms of carbohydrate out there. There are other forms of sugars that you can eat. Not white sugar. There are other forms of natural sugars that you can eat that will keep you healthy. Okay? And I'm not like freely the banana chick over here, right? But the point being, people, especially in fat acceptance and HAES, like to do this whole like, oh my God, you want me to eliminate this one food and it's now like the whole world's going to come crashing down. And it's usually something stupid like, you want me to eliminate donuts from my diet? How dare you? You know, that, don't you know that's a staple food for humanity? It's like, no, it's really not. You don't need sugar. You do not need white processed sugar. I know, shocker, absolute shocker, but you don't need that to survive. I know. Crazy talk over here. I understand. But I don't like when people use this kind of an argument where they're trying to like argue that these two foods are like inherent to humanity. They're really not. They're cultural foods and they're inherent to certain cultures. But even within those cultures, you don't have to eat those. You will still survive. There is pretty much very little out there that we as humans, that if you completely eliminated it, that we would just like cease to be. Right? We're very adaptable. We're the goats of like the animal kingdom. Well, okay. Other than goats, obviously, we'll eat anything. Okay, we'll eat anything. We'll figure out how to survive on anything. Will we be at optimal health? No. But the fact that we're still alive and we eat the modern American diet and somehow we're still alive kind of proves my point. Just throwing it out there.
Or like before the gym, which bread and rice isn't that way. Or you want it to have tons of nutrition. So you want like a nutritional bang for your buck. Or you'd want it to have, in some cases, if you're like a mid-sized princess or in a vanity weight era, you'd want protein basically for more satiety or muscle retention / building, especially in the mid phase, you can still build muscle. So bread and rice are just not very useful in a deficit. That's really the criticism. But because you'd rather have those simple sugars, you'd rather have like a fruit, because the fruit is also more energizing and it has a lot of nutrients in it and electrolytes and things like that, which bread doesn't have, rice doesn't have.
Depends on the fruit, but yes.
It depletes your electrolytes.
Well,
so
that's true.
It doesn't mean it's bad or evil or anything. Sugar also depletes your electrolytes, but that's why like,
that's true.
You know, natural carb sources, they tend to have potassium with them, like in fruit. It's supposed to be that way. And some natural flours have more potassium than our flour in the US, by the way. So, just saying. Just to add more issues to America's problem. But anyways, the point is, they're not ideal for downsizing. It doesn't mean they're evil or horrible. I think at maintenance, or even at a very shallow downsizing, like a shallow deficit, I've been having rice. You know, I don't eat bread, but it's mostly because of hypothyroidism. But I don't, like, I've been having rice and it helps with the workouts I'm doing and it helps with like energy for that too, because those workouts are tough and it helps with muscle building. They're more like bulking foods, which is, it means that they're not bad. You can still have them within a slight deficit, but it's just not ideal. That's all for most people. Or it depends on how active you are. If you're super active, or like I'm doing these like, you know, very traditional workouts, then it's useful. So like I'm doing squats, deadlifts, like things like that. All that kind of stuff, like real workouts. That is something where rice or bread could be beneficial if you're doing that. And then if you're trying to build muscle, you have a lot of protein with it. More shallow deficit, you have more calories. It's kind of a filler too, so it can be cheaper. So I don't think they're bad. I just think For most people, no. And for the most part, like when I was super morbidly obese, downsizing, I wasn't having it because I needed just either immediate energy, or I needed the electrolytes, or I needed other foods. I needed like dairy or meat or things like that to actually have a lot of nutrition coming in. So, and do not sleep on calcium, you guys. I'll say that forever. Do not sleep on it. Calcium helps so much.
If you can tolerate it.
Okay. Anyways, why exactly? Because of your health. Because it's killing you. Because you're losing yourself in these mental health issues. You're barely even acting human in this. I'm just saying. It's bizarre. Which, I'm not trying to shame this person, but I'm trying to just describe that this is not normal. This is not good. This is giving DIS order. This is bad.
Am I not allowed to say?
Because you don't like the way I look and you think it's reasonable to tell me to carve.
Am I not allowed to say disorder on YouTube either? What if I'm talking about cleaning up my room?
Pieces of myself off of myself and try random drugs and ruin my own life so I can look more visually pleasing to you. No, this isn't about ruining your life.
This is another one of those straw arguments that HAES and fat acceptance likes to create because, again, it's another way that they think they're going to win an argument. This whole, what is it? Why exactly? Because my stomach is too big. Because you don't like the way I look, and you think it's reasonable to tell me to carve pieces off myself and try random drugs and ruin my own life so I can look more visually pleasing to you. And then it says, and you somehow don't see how absurdly cruel and selfish that is to ask of someone. This is a straw argument that you hear from HAES and fat acceptance a lot. This shadowy you who has approached them and demanded of them that they take GLP-1s or that they get a weight loss surgery or so that they can shrink themselves down to a more visually appealing size. Who are these people? Who are these people that just randomly walk up to overweight people out in the wild and are like, you need to take a GLP-1? You gonna pay for it? You gonna go have an argument with my insurance company? Just throwing it out there. It's not like they're selling it on the corner. Well, they kind of are. But the point being, it's still money. You gonna go pay for it? Kind of a thing. Like, who are these people that are just randomly walking up to you, apparently on the daily, and telling you, random person, that you need to just chop pieces of yourself off? It sounds like you're having an argument with ghosts. The ghosts that live in your head. You know? So that's what this sounds like. And this is, like I said, this is a straw argument. The straw man is you, whoever that is. And the argument is this person is cruelly telling whoever the OP is here that they need to go chop off pieces of themselves or take experimental drugs in order to make themselves more physically pleasing to whoever you is. This never happened. This is an argument with ghosts.
What you're doing is already ruining your life. That's what it is. From my perspective, the toxic ritualistic is very life-ruining. And it's actually life-taking, too. So I think we're trying to... People are wanting to help you see that you shouldn't ruin your life. You shouldn't take your life for granted. This is a very destructive thing to do to yourself on a lot of different levels, and it goes way beyond looks. You're probably not even able to think clearly or think correctly because of what you're doing to yourself. So,
like I said, Alex doesn't pull punches. So, like I said, not everybody's cup of tea, but I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah, but in the TR, everything has to do with how you look, which is why they mention visually pleasing. Everything has to do with appearance in the TR. Everything. All the time. And you somehow don't see how absurdly cruel and selfish that is to ask of somebody.
It's interesting that he says that when it comes to the toxic ritualistic behaviors that, like, everything has to do with appearance all the time. So that does kind of go back and reinforce what I was saying earlier about, our conversations with ghosts is, the person is fixated on their own appearance to the point where that's all they are thinking about when they're having these discussions with themselves is their own appearance. And that is something that like fat acceptance and HAES gets accused of a lot, because they're always talking about how other people are looking at them and judging them for being fat. And then they immediately turn around and start judging other people for their appearances. And they're usually the first ones to judge people's appearances and their own. And that's another thing people say. They're like, most people aren't even looking at you, let alone judging how you look. But yet you're the first ones to attack, especially women, for their appearances. So you guys are doing the thing that you're accusing everybody else of. You're the perpetrators of this. And that's a very common thing in fat acceptance and health at every size, aka HAES. So that's very fascinating for me to hear him say that within the TR that everything has to do with appearance. So it also kind of reinforces that and makes that make sense.
I do think that people can be flippant with it, and I don't want to give them an inch at all because they'll take a mile, and you never ever, if you are engaging with somebody that is a zombie, do not ever give them an inch. Say, no, it's you're being cruel to yourself and you're being selfish.
Okay, don't give zombie inches. No inches for zombies.
Because I don't know why I wanted to say they're she, but maybe they are. I'll say they, because I don't know. They are projecting. So you can kind of mirror that back. And it'll really piss them off. So I'm just letting you know, like, be prepared. Be prepared.
How to piss off zombies. Good to know.
Prepared. But that's what I would say. I'd say, no, you're being really selfish and you're actually being really cruel to yourself at the same time. Because you're using this as this distraction. And it's not good for you. It's not good for anyone else. We all care about you and you're doing this. And it's awful. And it hurts everybody. It's hurting you. It's hurting everyone around you. It's horrible. While pretending you care about their health, fuck you. No, people do care, especially people that are close to you. I mean, this person's talking directly about diet culture people, but diet culture people is not just influencers. Diet culture people could be people in their family, it could be their friends, it could be somebody who's just on their own journey. You know, it could be me, it could be Angelica, right? It could be anybody.
I can see people getting I can see people getting feedback from their family, sometimes negative feedback from their family about, you need to lose some weight. Hey, you've put on weight. Oh, I remember things my family used to say. But yeah, no, I know your family can say the cruelest things. Don't get me wrong. So yeah, with getting feedback from your family members, especially siblings, yeah, no, that's a real thing, but that doesn't sound like what's happening here. But even if it is, still sounds like a conversation in the head of the writer. It still sounds like a straw argument happening here. Has this person had this conversation with their family members? Possibly. Maybe that's what triggered it. Maybe they went home and their parent said something about their appearance and that set them off. Maybe that's it. But the end of the day, I mean, it's not like your parents, unless you're a kid, and even then, I don't think they can do it. People can't hold you down and give you GLP-1 shots. People can't hold you down and force you to have weight loss surgery, at least not here in the States.
So, and it will be anybody. But yeah, when people say that they care about your health, they do. It has to do with the fact that this is killing you. But when you're in the TR, you never want to consider health. In fact, you can't, because if you start to consider it, then you're going to have to stop. So what you'll get is like performing health sometimes. So you have to be really careful of a false recovery. But this person, so deep in it, just actively shitting on the idea of health. So just be careful out there. Be careful out there in the wilds. Be careful out there in the quarantine zones.
What's a false recovery?
Be so careful. Because this type of person would probably be very volatile. Extremely volatile. And they always think they're so nice, and they're not, because part of the TR too is you think, well, I have to do this because if I don't do this, then I'm going to be really mean and horrible. You already are. That's the secret. It's actually making you worse. It's actually making you meaner. I'm actually so much nicer than when I was in it, which a lot of you guys are probably like, what? And it's like, oh yeah, sweetie. I was very cutthroat when it was very severe. It really, whew. I'm telling you, I was a clicker. I was. You know, just waiting to hear something so that I can pounce, you know. Huh. So I know what this is. I've done it. I've seen it all before.
That's an interesting statement to make. I say that a lot, I know. The whole concept of I was just waiting to hear something so I could pounce. The fat acceptance and HAES people, especially online, get accused of this a lot of, you know, just looking for any excuse to attack people or be mad, even when it's not that deep. Like, what is her name? Oh man, she just recently got shut down for calling out the musician lady. Wow. My 2 functioning brain cells have clearly stopped for the day. And then when the woman came back, she started a campaign against the New York meters because they said something about, you know, on Saturdays and Sundays they're on a diet, so you don't have to feed the meters those days, which is just like, it's not diet culture, it's a joke. Let it go. But yeah, it's that kind of a thing. Like, you're looking for a reason to be mad. So you're looking everywhere, and when you do finally find a reason to be mad, you're going to latch onto it, whether it's a good idea or not.
Okay, but with that, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day, night, etc. Peace.
Bye. Oops. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. At least I had fun. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you have made it this far, go ahead and put I think a flower? Yeah, put a flower down, because I think that's what the clickers are supposed to look like. I haven't actually played this game, believe it or not. I should probably watch somebody play it. Figure out what they are. Anyway, go ahead and put a flower down as your emoji down below. Let me know what you guys think. Do you have experiences like Graphically Alex in this kind of a situation? Do you watch Alex? If you don't, you should. What do you think of his analogy of this whole concept of fat acceptance zombie? Do you think his breakdown of this post was fair? Do you think it wasn't fair? I know a lot of you have dealt with this kind of a thing, or, you know, a E followed by the letter D. Like I said, I haven't, so if you feel like sharing, go for it, but the internet is not a safe space, so please don't overshare. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to be moving more into fat logic and that kind of thing. We are going to be watching more of Alex's fat acceptance zombie series, just because I'm enjoying it. I probably will get a little bit more informed about the zombies from The Last of Us. And yeah, that's all I've really got for you guys. So you got a flower, you got your questions to answer. That's pretty much all I've got for you guys. So thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my members. You guys rock. Thank you to everybody who's going to hit the thumbs up button. And I will see everybody in the next one.
This
Bye.
is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.